What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I want to discuss an ETF that we haven't in a few weeks now, and that is the iShares Global Clean Energy ETF, ticker symbol INRG or ICLN depending on which ticker you have. Now I want to go through four main topics today. Firstly, we'll have a brief look through my own holding within this ETF and see how it's performing, and we'll have a look at the 3-month and 1-month charts. We'll then give an update on some of their holdings within the ETF and some weighting differences. And thirdly, we're going to actually look through some very interesting articles on clean energy as a whole, which will definitely impact this ETF going forward. And finally, we'll go through my plans going forward for this ETF. And with that being said, let's dive right on into today's video. So this iShares Global Clean Energy ETF makes up one of the 33 holdings in my overall portfolio, which is now nearly getting close to the 10,000 mark. And if you have followed any of my prior videos, my overall goal is to have €100,000 invested into the market. So it's nice that we're finally kind of gaining some traction here, and we're nearly 10% of the way there. Now, as I said, the iShares Clean Energy ETF is one of 33 holdings, and it's only one of 2 or 3 overall that's currently in the red. However, it is starting to recover, and we'll have a look at my current position right now. As it stands, I currently have 3 holdings overall in my energy sector pie, which we have €802 invested overall and are up 9.07%. The 2 older school stocks, ExxonMobil is up 86.34% and Chevron is up 34.23%. Now this just shows the importance of diversification even within sectors, because we can see the clean energy ETF isn't doing anywhere as good as the other 2 older school stocks at the moment. Now as it stands, we're currently down 6.48%. Now let's have a look at the charts and my current holding. So as it stands, we can see here on the left, we currently have just over 47 shares. And at current prices, it's currently trading at £9.40. My average price here is a dotted line, currently at £10.05. So it'd be nice to kind of get that closer to the £9 mark over the next few weeks by dollar cost averaging. You can also see down here that my overall gain loss is actually 8.11% on this ETF. However, for once, FX Impact's actually working in our favour, and we're after gaining 1.58% or €8.76 because of this FX Impact. But overall, we can see up here, it's about 6.5% in the red at the moment. For an ETF, this certainly has been fairly volatile, considering there's about 80 or so holdings at the moment, but there has been a few reasons why this ETF has been quite rocky and going up and down like a roller coaster over the last few months. For example, at one stage we were down about 20% within this ETF, so because we're down about 6.5% at the moment, that's actually probably good in terms of short-term gains. We're probably after gaining back about 14% or so. And that's not just because of capital gains, it's also because of the likes of dollar cost averaging. So when it was down about 20%, I started buying in at those cheaper prices to get my overall average cost cheaper. So hopefully in the long term, I'll be gaining more of a profit. For example, on the 1-year chart, it's up 61%. On the 3-month, it's down 4.5%. 1 month, it's up 3.5%. And on the 1-week chart, it's up about 1% as well. So for an ETF, it certainly is quite rocky in comparison to, let's say, the S&P 500 or the FTSE 100. In terms of portfolio characteristics, only a few months back it had about 30 stocks in the ETF overall, but since then it has gone up to 82. Now there's a few reasons for this, and the kind of 2 to come to mind. Firstly is got to do with Plug Power, their top holding at the time when it was 30 stocks in the ETF. It had financial accounting errors, which had a drastic effect on their share price, effectively dragging down the ETF. Now as you know, ETFs are kind of composed of a lot of stocks. So one stock shouldn't really affect the overall price too much, even if it is the top holding. So it was kind of too overweighted in my opinion, and that's one of the reasons why they have done that and added in another 50 or so holdings. Now it's also worth noting that they do want to get this ETF up to about 100 holdings overall. So I'm actually in favour of that, because there's a lot of different subsectors within this clean energy kind of sector. So I'm kind of all for that as well. And the second reason why they are adding more stocks into this ETF is because 1 or 2 different buyers or sellers won't impact the overall price of the ETF, because there'll be a lot more units outstanding, which means there'll be a lot more money within this ETF as well. Now just 2 very brief points before we go on, before I forget. The first of these is you need to decide before buying this ETF what currency you want to buy in. So you can get in a few different currencies depending on which ticker you use. So my bit of advice here would be to kind of get into your own currency to avoid some FX impacts. And the second question I get asked quite a lot on this ETF and ETFs in general is in terms of dividends. Now for this clean energy, it's semi-annual. And again, it depends what ticker you get. So it's also distributing or accumulating, depending on which you pick. So obviously accumulating will gave the dividends straight back, or buy more shares of this ETF straight away instead of paying out the dividend, and distributing will give you the dividend payment. Now, accumulating is probably better in terms of tax purposes, especially if you're a long-term investor. But again, either way, you should look into both of these options before picking either of these tickers. Just briefly here as well, as I mentioned, there's now 82 holdings and they do want to get up to about 100 or so in the coming months. But again, at the moment, Vista Wind Systems is their top holding with 7.8% holding overall, which is still probably a bit high just for the one company, considering there's 80 now or so at play. They then have Enphase Energy and Ørsted making up the top three. We can see Plug Power here in probably 5th or 6th position, starting to make its way back up towards the top again. So that's probably due to their improved fund accounting errors since then, and their stock having a bit of a rebounce and kind of going back up in value after that bit of a scare. So again, it's going to be interesting to see over the coming months what extra stocks they start adding into this ETF. One of the main reasons why I prefer to hold an ETF in the clean energy sector is got to do with many subsectors within the ETF as a whole, and we can see here there's a lot of discrepancies between different subcategories, hence why I like to hold the overall ETF. For example, if you just wanted to go all in on solar or wind, for example, one of those could fail miserably or could succeed immensely as well. But I prefer to be able to sleep at night and be able to have an overall blanket approach, especially within these kind of up and coming markets. As stated earlier, my overall clean energy ETF has taken a bit of a beating over the last few months, but it is starting to recover thankfully. I can see here that there's a bit of a correction on the cards. Now, ever since Biden became the president of the US, the markets kind of have slowly went down in the clean energy sector once the hype died down, and there was a bit of a correction. So again, that was always going to happen. That happens in every situation after the hype dies down. So again, there is a bit of a correction, and we can see especially kind of clean fuels, energy stocks are starting to recover as well, which overall will be only of good benefit for this ETF. We also saw earlier in my clean energy pie that I have 3 holdings overall, and the 2 older school stocks, ExxonMobil and Chevron, are doing extremely well at the moment. It's just a pity I don't have more money invested, but that's always the way. So again, we can even see here that those kind of style energy or big oil companies are starting to get serious about clean energy. So again, that will always going to happen, and it doesn't take a kind of a brainiac at all to realize that long-term clean energy is the way forward, and these kind of older school crude oil, etc., will start to die out. Again, because it's not renewable, it's quite obvious. But again, it's just patience is key. So if you start loading up on these style ETFs, especially at the beginning stages, which we're in now, or the infant stages, long term, this will only be of benefit because it is inevitable before clean energy starts to take over. And we can even see here that these bigger style, older school stocks are starting to take the initiative here and start to look into these clean energy, renewable sources of energy as well. Again, which will only drive up the prices overall of these clean energy stocks. So kind of in summary, overall, I believe this ETF has a lot of potential going forward, particularly at current prices. Obviously, this is not financial advice, it's just my own personal opinion. But again, my average price here is over the £10 mark still. So in the next few weeks or even months, I do want to start dragging this overall average down if the markets start to stay down as well. Now, the reason I haven't invested into this ETF over the last week or two is because we saw that I have about €800 invested in my energy sector pie at the moment, and over 500 of that is in this ETF. So I do want to start balancing out my overall profits or weightings a bit more instead of having too many stocks overweighted. So that's why I'm going to leave this energy sector stock for now, or this ETF. Now, there's 2 ways here and a both win-win. If I leave this ETF for a few weeks or even a month or so, if it goes down further in value, well and good, because I get in at a cheaper price, so my overall average cost will go down even further. But if it goes back up in price over the next few weeks, that's well and good as well, because I already have a position here, so that would bring me back closer into parity or back into the green. So either way, patience is key here, and it's kind of win-win no matter what I do within this ETF. Finally, one piece of advice that I would give is that you should not lump all your capital in at once, because, for example, we can even just see here the drastic drop. For example, if you got in here at the £9.37 mark, you'd have thought, oh, you did great because you got in at a much cheaper price than it was. But however, I kept it dropping, and that just shows the importance of buying in 1 or 2 shares here or there and just kind of slowly drip feed the capital in. Again, if it goes back up in price, well and good, but if it keeps dropping, you will still have further capital to take advantage of that as well. So it'll be very interesting to know in the comment section below, firstly, if you hold this ETF and how many shares you have within this clean energy ETF, and if it's in the red or green. So thanks very much. That's pretty much the end of today's video. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you all in tomorrow's video.